The Trump administration has frozen immigration applications from people in 19 countries. You'll be shocked to know they're not really stopping immigration applications from France or Germany or Norway or Sweden. No, no, no. Almost all of them come from Africa, the Middle East, or Asia. And the move is already hitting immigrant families who have been in the legal pipeline for years. USCIS says the pause is necessary so they can, quote, vet and screen to the maximum degree possible, even though they admit it will delay green card access, citizenship cases, and other things for thousands of people. But I want to be clear, this isn't just a paperwork slowdown. The freeze is landing in a political climate where Trump and his allies have escalated their rhetoric from dog whistles, which they've always done, to outright bullhorns. What used to be coded language about the rapists and the animals who would be coming from these other countries like south of the border, that language is now being replaced by outright claims that certain cultures are incompatible with the United States and that migration from the global south, the so-called third world, is a threat to society itself. They're not even pretending to not be racist. The administration seized on the recent shooting of 2 National Guard members near the White House, one killed and one critically hurt, to accelerate that narrative. They're always looking for an excuse, a pretext, a scapegoat even. The suspect, Rahmanullah Lakanwal, is an Afghan national who worked alongside U.S. forces as part of the CIA-backed Zero units. That's another story for another day. Office hours, we'll talk about that one day. But the role of the CIA and the U.S. government more broadly in installing the very movements, the very leadership, the very power structures that they then want to dismantle and use as the pretext for their imperial invasions, oh man, it's something that could be studied for another century, man. The U.S. knows what they're doing. They create the monsters and then tell you that they have to destroy the monsters. Anyway, Lakanwal came to the United States after the collapse of the U.S.-backed government in Kabul. Part of the long tail of American wars abroad. And then he was granted asylum by who? You got it. The Trump administration, not Biden, the Trump administration in April. But instead of acknowledging the trauma and the violence that the U.S. exported and the local allies it relied on, Trump used the tragedy to push his agenda. He claimed the incident proved the quote unquote social dysfunction caused by immigrants, and he demanded a permanent pause on migration from poorer nations. Now, the administration then stopped processing all Afghan visas and asylum applications nationwide. And then on Thanksgiving Day, Trump introduced a new word. Ironic, right? Since he knows so few. He introduced a new word to the American public, a word with a long, dark pedigree in Europe, in European politics, especially on the far right. He said, this is important, y'all. He said, only reverse migration can fully cure this situation. Again, only reverse migration can fully cure this situation. Moments later, he was echoed by the DHS, Department of Homeland Security. They said, remigration now. This isn't neutral language. Remigration is a very particular term. It's a signature term of the European identitarian movement, a project built on sending non-white, non-Christian populations back to their countries of origin, regardless of their citizenship or their legality. They could be a citizen of that nation and they're still going to be read as outsiders, and they're still going to be forced to go back, quote unquote, home. In Germany and Austria, extremist policies have used it to, or extremist policies have been deployed by extremist parties to justify mass deportations, even sometimes giving out mock one-way plane tickets to immigrants. The term is in the same neighborhood, maybe a first cousin of great replacement rhetoric. That's the conspiracy theory claiming that white Europeans are being intentionally replaced by migrants of color. That's also a theory that was bound up in anti-Semitism and often used to do extraordinary harm to our Jewish brothers and sisters. And now the language is coming straight from the US government. The Department of Homeland Security is involved in this. They're engaged in this. They're excited about this. They have even floated the idea in the United States, in the Department of Homeland Security, they floated the idea of forming an Office of Remigration. This is something that we could not have imagined even 5 years ago, shit, maybe even 2 years ago, maybe even a year ago. for some of us. Others saw this coming. Trump's allies have said outright that the goal is not just to deport undocumented people, but to actually reverse migration. That means that they want to push out entire communities that the Trump government, doesn't believe belong here. It doesn't matter what their status is. Some in the administration have even suggested prioritizing, this is wild, white Afrikaner refugees for resettlement while shutting the door entirely on Black and brown migrants. The person who popularized the term remigration, I'm talking about Austrian extremist Martin Sellner, he's been celebrating. He loves Trump's adoption of this rhetoric and this approach. He says it's proof that his agenda is going mainstream, and he's not wrong about that part. Meanwhile, 1.4 million asylum seekers in the United States are now facing indefinite limbo. Most come from countries that Trump has called high risk, from Afghanistan and Sudan to Somalia, Iran, Yemen, Cuba, Togo. These are students, these are workers, these are family members, these are caregivers, these are people who followed every rule that the system laid out, and they're still watching the door get slammed on them in the middle of the process. Now, immigrant advocates warn that the remigration narrative is designed to scapegoat entire populations. Entire populations are being scapegoated for the actions of one person. This is called, they didn't use this language, I'm using it now, collective punishment. These are other acts, gross acts of illegality, gross contraventions of international law. And that's not a secret. That's what they're trying to do. They're not really trying to be shady about it or covert about it anymore. They want to reshape America by deciding who's allowed to stay and who's incompatible with the nation itself. The immigration pause is not just a policy change. It's the first concrete step toward a re-migration agenda, one built on the idea that America can save itself, but only one way: by reducing, by restricting, or by reversing migration from the global South. This is a policy that is as old as colonialism. It's as old as white supremacy. They take the same old stuff, the same old narratives, the same old hierarchies, the same old relations of domination, the same old logics of domination. Now they just repackage it as national security. But we know what it is. We know exactly what it is.